Now is the question and answer session. I just would like to request Professor C.H.C. Bohulmeite, Head Department of Vocational Studies and Skill Development, to kindly coordinate.
My question is, with India going to host G20 summit in 2023, what will be India's role to further carry India limelight into world politics?
Lay the apprehensions that Indo-Pacific is going to replace the egg is policy. And we thought once the Indo-Pacific is operational, the centrality of the region will be lost soon. So what do you have to say on this?
Yeah. One more question from...
Hello, sir. First of all, I must say that I'm very much overwhelmed, just as any other UPSC aspirant over here. My question is, what are the important things that you would advise to today's youth and today's youth who are aspiring to serve the nation as an IFS officer in the future? My name is Hansen A.G. I'm from DMU University, Philosophy Honours, 3rd semester BA. Thank you.
Which we would like to see. So this time around, actually the manner in which we would do it, which is really to have G20 events around the countries in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities and towns, so that we want a much, a sense that the entire, the country thinks it is their G20. It is not government's G20 or Delhi's G20, it is India's G20. So that's the first point. The second is what would be, in a sense, the big issues, the role, the agenda. It would, G20 reacts to the immediate issues of the times, a little bit before, a little bit after. And right now the world is struggling with COVID, looking at the Ukraine conflict consequences, energy and food. There's a very serious debt situation in the world. And you would have all seen climate emergencies in the world are growing. And in all of this, there's a real deep worry that, the sustainable development agenda, that is education, health, sanitation, urbanization, these are going off track. Countries are not meeting targets because they don't have the financial resources to do that. A lot of it would be this, but at the end of the day, G20 is about finance and economic and development issues, and that's really where the focus would be. India will certainly be a voice of the global South, because there are not many countries of the South, the developing countries, in the G20. If you look, because G20 is the 20 biggest economies, the 20 biggest economies are mostly developed economies. I want to make sure that this whole country has that sense that, look, it's our G20. The other two issues, because they are linked, Act East and Indo-Pacific, and in a sense you are asking what happens if the more you get into Indo-Pacific. But the other question to the gentleman from the back was really what happens to the Northeast. My sense is, Indo-Pacific is a very good thing for us, because it establishes today that India has serious interests in the Pacific Ocean, which it historically did. I mean, people used to trade all the way till China and Japan and Korea. Even today you can find Indian monuments and archaeological sites and evidence of trading in that part of the world. We had shrunk our horizons during the colonial period and after that. Today, once again, I would say the country is coming into its own. We are sort of broadening our vision and our interest. And because we are broadening it, doesn't mean we will neglect what is a part of it. ASEAN will always remain the first, when you step out of India, in fact, you just cross Moray, you have hit ASEAN, So ASEAN is the first step out. It will always be the first step out. And for us, ASEAN is still the most effective meeting ground for all the countries in the region. So its acceptability is something which we value and we will always support and promote. But the issue which the young gentleman from the back raised, which was, what does it mean for the Northeast? In fact, if we can actually make really visible gains in our connectivity, which means the India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway, if you can get the connection through Kaladan from Paleva to Sitwe port. If we can actually have much smoother logistical connectivity access through Bangladesh, the future of the Northeast will change. The future of the Northeast will change because you would suddenly be much more competitive. You will have much more access for goods coming in and goods going out. The number of partners you will have will grow. There are today markets which are logical markets which you can't access. When I was in Singapore, for example, we made a lot of effort at promoting products, agricultural products from the Northeast. But just getting them there regularly was a big challenge. So our hope certainly would be that between Indo-Pacific, in a sense, as a kind of a pull factor, and today Act East as a kind of push factor, that we can get Northeast much more deeply involved in the economic activities of all the geographies and economies east of India. And I think that will, in a sense, will be India's eastern face to the world. But you know how much you know about the world, how comfortable you are with the world. We could not have imagined it when I was your age. You know, it was like a very tough education. I mean, the first time I went out of India when I was 24 years old, because the government of India gave me a job and sent me out. You know, it was only the second time I had even got into an aircraft. Even getting into an aircraft was a dream at that time. So today your opportunities are much more, your horizon should be more, your ambition should be more. And you know, I would dearly love bright, talented minds more and more to join the foreign service. But I would also say there are so many other things also, you know, which opportunities we didn't have in our time. So in many ways I envy all of you, but our responsibility today is to make sure that we prepare you for those opportunities. You know, your education is different, your skills, your talent, your technical training is different. Your opportunities are different. That we find, you know, getting a passport, for example. You know how difficult it used to be 25 years ago to even get a passport. I mean, just imagine if you couldn't get a passport and you found it too expensive to travel on a plane, suddenly your world has shrunk. So you people are in a much more fortunate position, but it is still our responsibility to maximize those opportunities for you. That is something which we are very, very determined to do. I hope G20, because G20 should end up with the entire country having greater global awareness, especially the young people of the country having greater global awareness. They should be comfortable with the world, and I have every confidence if they are. The competitiveness that all of you have, and especially everybody in Manipur has, I have every confidence that you people will make the most.
The question is, as you have been in various countries in this world, could you, I mean, which country's education infrastructure or which institution that you have been so far has impressed you the best? And what makes that university or that institution or that country unique that we could learn from them? Thank you.
I do appreciate the difficulties and the problems that students from Myanmar would be going through. I don't have a single clean, neat answer, because I think a lot of it would depend on what individual students would want to do once they are through with their education. Let me really, to the best of my knowledge, at least, we have not come across significant number of cases of people who want some kind of, exception or carve-out made for them. I would say if you have a problem, the best way would be to approach us through your university. That would probably make the most sense. In terms of your issue, the point you made about democracy. Look, everybody, I mean, certainly every democracy wants every other democracy to do well. It's a kind of a natural affinity. So the turn of developments in Myanmar is obviously something of deep concern to us. But we also today, and you know it's, if you are living in Imphal, that as a country which is a direct land border, you also have to manage other aspects of life. There are people moving between the two borders. We had a period when there were people who had COVID on that side of the border, and there were concerns whether that becomes a problem for us. There are issues of insurgent groups, there are issues of crime. So there is a sort of a practical, I think there's a practical border management engagement issue. And as I said, there's also the deeper question of building this trilateral highway, because that would be good for the people of Myanmar and of India and everybody else beyond as well. So in foreign policy, often you have to combine, multiple objectives. So our support for the democratic process and the democratic transition is there. I mean, after all, if there was any country which, particularly in the earlier period, had a sort of association with the democratic struggle, it was India. Today, I mean, first of all, our approach to Africa is, in a way, I would say somewhat unique. Prime Minister Modi spelled it out in Kampala in 2018, where he said, basically, look, we will do in Africa what African countries want. We'll work to the needs, demands, and priorities of Africa. So everything that we try to do today in Africa is consultative. It is like saying, okay, these are the kind of things we can do. Please tell us which parts of it are of interest. Or if you have a particular priority, please tell us what it is. We will tell you whether it's possible to work with you. And in that consultative mode today, we have really ramped up our interface with Africa. In the last 3 years, obviously COVID has been a big problem. But despite the COVID, we since 2016, we actually have trained or trained more than 40,000 African students and professionals in various domains. There are 25,000 students from Africa today in this country. And we are today looking at, I spoke about the digital revolution out here. We want to take it into Africa. We want to do distance education, distance health. We are looking at greener growth because there's a very strong renewable push out here. In fact, only day before yesterday, I was meeting, we had a hackathon with African students. And I was actually talking to African ministers about how can we work together in growing millets, because both India and Africa are the main producers of millets in the world. But for India, the relationship with Africa is an emotional relationship. I'm not sure you can say that for all the other countries. And that is really what makes a difference. Finally, the fact is, there's no question American universities have a certain strength. The ability to get things out of individual students is actually quite extraordinary. But you have universities, today in Japan and China who have, their rigor and, in a sense, the sort of the amount of what they have invested in universities is very, very impressive. So I honestly can't give you a flat-out, uncaveated answer. I would still say today, if you were looking in terms of creativity, where are the big ideas coming out of university, I would say on balance still America is still leading that, and that's one of the reasons why America still kept its position as the #1 country.